Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. My name is Milan.
My name is Pia.
And today we're going to talk about the crazy F1 Sao Paulo race that just happened yesterday. I think the whole race, before it even started, there was confusion.
Well, I mean, not even just that, even going into it, like qualifying day.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Set it up. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the day of, which is also true.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot that happened. But even qualifying on Saturday, we were attempting to watch it because we watched the sprint race. We had watched the sprint qualifying the day before. And then we were going into the qualifying, and then suddenly there was rain. And then suddenly it was delayed. And it was delayed again and delayed again until it was postponed to Sunday
morning.
Exactly. And then, of course, with the time difference here, it was 2:30 a.m. for qualifying. So neither of us watched it live. No. I got up early, or we both got up early in the morning because we wanted to watch the race live at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. So once I was getting ready, I watched the highlights, and boy, qualifying was insanity.
Yes.
And I felt like it set the tone for what I was expecting for the race.
So we had a red flag in Q1.
We had...
Which was Colapinto, right? With 46...
Oh, yeah. Okay, I think we had like 5 different red flags during qualifying.
Yeah, with like 46 seconds left.
That was Q2. Because then they finished Q2, and that's why the Red Bulls were out.
Oh. But... Oh, because Max got the five
grid penalty.
5 place grid penalty, and so that's why he started in 17 instead of 12.
Yes.
So so that explains it. Yeah. So there were so many red flags, and people were spinning out because there was just a lot of water on the track, and I think it seems like the consensus is, at least from for sure Lewis Hamilton, is that the rain tires that Pirelli are currently providing are just not it.
No.
I think you could also tell, obviously, during the rain or during the race, because there was a lot of rain, but there was also a lot of spinning out, and not only from rookies, but also from established drivers.
I mean, we had Carlos Sainz spin out. We had Alonso. I mean, he's the most experienced driver on the track. He spun
400
out.
400 plus GPs,
exactly. Right? So, I mean, it was such a tricky race. It was so nerve-wracking to watch it. I mean, there were parts of the race after we were about halfway through, you could barely see anything.
Yeah, not even on the broadcast. So I don't even know how much the drivers really saw.
Yeah.
Maybe like the blinking red lights, and you see a few markers on the side.
Of course. I mean, yes, they have the track memorized, and it's a lot of like muscle memory and stuff.
Above average reaction time, but still.
Yes, 100%. But yeah.
I mean, I would like to point out my favorite driver, Lance Stroll, not even making it to the starting lineup because during the warm-up, he spun out, and then he had the grand idea to drive through the sand,
the gravel sand thing. Yeah,
was already probably moist. It just he essentially beached his own car before the race even started.
Oh yes.
So that was like a really great move by him.
Yeah.
So then they had to abort. Oh no! So originally they were just gonna wait, I think, for him to catch up, but then he beached us.
Yes.
So then they had to abort the start.
Yes.
Then when they went back, there was like, I think Lando started the warm-up lap too soon, and so some people stayed, some people went. But now a whole 10 hours later, we don't have any updates on whether or not there would be any penalties, because a lot of things that happened during that whole chaos in the beginning, they were like, listen, we don't have time to take a look at it now. We're going to look at it after race, which I think is fair.
Yeah, especially with everything that was going on right as the race has started as well. Of course, you always know that a start is always... a lot can happen. A lot needs to be reviewed. Exactly. So the same thing there. And because of the rain, it just heightens the tasks, I feel like, of the stewards, because there's so much to observe, not just the driving itself, but also the conditions. Is it good for the drivers to drive? Is it safe for the drivers to drive? And I mean, this race was anxiety-ridden, stressful from the beginning of the race. Then, of course, we had several yellow flags and we had red flags. We had a rolling restart. We had a safety car restart. We had people competing in the front that we've not seen competing in the front all season. I mean, I'm sure if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you already know the results of the race, that we have 2 Alpines on the podium. I mean, that's absolutely insane. Last year we had... I know.
That's insane.
Yeah, last year we had both podiums, or both Alpines had a podium, but not together. Esteban Ocon was in Monaco, and then Pierre Gasly was also in Sao Paulo. So Sao Paulo seems to be
a good Alpine track.
Exactly, a good Alpine track. But I mean,
Ocon already pointed something out that really that much rain really levels the field, because the whole race we essentially didn't have any DRS because it was not safe. I think if they would have had DRS, there would have been a lot more crashes and spinning out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because you're having all that speed going into the corner, not enough grip, so much water on the track.
Yeah.
I will say, I think, besides probably Lando Norris, who, of course, he ended up finishing the race in 6th place, which is really devastating for his championship drive or attempt to, take the lead from Max. I think the biggest loser of this weekend is actually Haas.
Haas,
the team itself.
The constructors, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, we're talking about $50 million potentially.
Yeah, potentially $50
so
million.
to bring everyone up to speed, so Kevin Magnussen already...
Crash.
So even our lights are very upset about this. So to bring everyone up to speed, so Kevin Magnussen already didn't start the race because he wasn't feeling well.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, also Alonso was really sick, but he did end up racing.
Yeah, he didn't do the media days because he had caught a bug or something in Mexico already, so he was still recovering. Or he had...
Part of me thinks maybe Magnussen was also encouraged to take, maybe be like, if you're not feeling well, let's give Behrman the chance.
Fair.
Even though I do know now with Behrman racing this race, he is no longer eligible to do rookie testing because he has done too much driving now during the championship, or I guess in an F1 car. But essentially going into the race, Haas had 46 points in the Constructors' Championship, which placed them into...
Oh, here.
We have that right here. They were at the time in 6th place, and Alpine was in 9th place with 16 points. And with both drivers ending up on the podium, Alpine catapulted themselves ahead of Haas.
Yes.
Into 6th place with 49 points. So it's quite a leap to Aston Martin. So Alonso has been really putting in the work with the 86 points that they have.
But the 6th place for the Constructor Championship is in high contention. So we have Alpine with 49 points. We have Haas with 46 points. And then we also have Visa, Cash App, RB with 44 points. Yes. So they're so close together. And these teams have been competing for the points. I mean, they're always, those middle midfield teams are always fighting to get the points. So it's going to be really interesting.
Especially also... last race, because both Visa Cash App cars also made it into the points. And Haas is the only one out of those 3 that didn't score any points. Because the Visa Cash App had 36 points going into the weekend, so they closed the gap too. So this is like a 2 points to the to 8th place and 3 points to 6th place from Haas. So it's gonna make that very, very interesting.
Yes,
I think because it's literally millions on the line.
Yes. So I think it's going to be quite contentious moving forward. We only have 3 races left, and there's so much money on the playing field.
Haas, but also maybe actually more so Williams too, because Williams was battling it out with Alpine, because Alpine had 16 points and Williams has 17 points.
Yeah.
And now the only person that's with it that is the closest to them is the Kick Sauber team.
Yeah, and not only did Williams lose so much ground in the Constructor Championship, but both cars crashed. Both cars need to be fixed a lot. I mean, unfortunately, Albon didn't even make it into the race because he crashed out in Q3, and he had such an excellent qualifying race. I would have loved to see him on the track. Colapinto did a great race, but unfortunately, during a safety car, he spun out into the wall. Luckily, not as much force or as much speed as if it would have been during an actual racing lap, but the damage to the car looked quite severe, and they're already struggling for money.
They're already struggling, yeah. And I will say, on whose fault is this in the end? The sprint race. Because if it wasn't for the sprint race, then we could have had the qualifying regular. Then and then if people would have crashed out, they would have had enough time to fix up the car and have Albon on the track. Yeah,
I think sprint races, the way they are right now, and we talk about it all the time, is not the right format. It only aids the top teams. The midfield or bottom teams, they rarely are able to snatch up a point because you only get points until the 8th position.
Eighth.
You know, so like it already like it's only usually limited to the top 4 teams anyways. Then there's such a high risk for them to damage the car during the sprint race that will hurt their qualifying, and then it will also hurt the main race. So
So I think I will retract my statement and will say actually the biggest loser is actually Williams, because unlike Haas, Williams is almost out of the fight unless something like what happened to Alpine will happen to Williams. Which is very unlikely. Because something like this is once in a few moons. You know.
Or many moons
situation. And then I think the last thing I wanted to bring up is, of course, we have to mention Max Verstappen's performance. I mean, going from 17th place and finishing the race in first place.
And then as we were watching it, so lately what you've been doing, you have the what's that display on?
I have the data up, so that shows everyone's lap times and everyone's sectors.
And I was getting so annoyed with him because at the end, like Max had already driven out like a 5-10 plus second gap to Ocon at that time. So we knew that he was going to take it unless some silly mistake happens. But you kept reading out, oh, purple sector for Max, fastest lap. I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter. But on the other hand, like you said, it was absolutely impressive because the conditions were still really, really tough. And even before the track was drying up a little bit, his times were just bonkers. Like you were saying, he started in 17th. Right after the start of the race, he was almost pretty much up to 10th place. And then he just worked through the track. And it was really, I don't remember any like, ooh, this was a really like kind of Max overtake. All of the overtakes seemed pretty safe. He had an incredible pace. But then we also do have to bring up briefly who didn't have the pace. Checo,
forget about it. Homeboy is hanging out in which place did he finish in? 11th. So right outside the points. But he didn't have the pace. But with Max, that's also really interesting because you also have a Red Bull kind of that right now that is weak. You know, the Red Bull is not the fastest car. People would probably argue it's currently the 3rd fastest car on the track with the McLaren, the Ferrari ahead. Of course, not having any DRS helped tremendously. But this also just shows Max magic, I would say. Like Max is just the king of rain. I know people always said that. Of course, he's Dutch, so he got to probably race a lot in rain. But it's also for the Brits, right? So sunny people who come out of sunshine places, forget about it. You're screwed when it comes to stuff like that. No, but in all seriousness, what an incredible race. And yes, of course, he benefited by Red Bull making the right call and waiting, and he benefited of the red flag.
I mean, it was a matter of
that's racing. That's racing, and let's be real. Lando had his first race win because of
a safety car.
You know, so that's just how racing goes. One time the pendulum swings your way, and the other time it doesn't.
Literally, there's 2 things I want to add on to that. One is I just loved how happy Max was at the end of the race. He's not usually as expressive. Exactly. So it was really nice. Even on the radio, you already heard him. I mean, crossing the line. I mean, because it was an intense race. Like, there's no way you can tell me, even as much as he was dominating the race, that it was an easy race for him. He still had to fight and focus. And
any little slip up and it costs you your race, you spin out, you're on the wall. Or, you know... And I think there's also a lot more on the line, of course, in this race compared to all the other race wins that he had in recent history, right? The championship is on the line. He started essentially almost in last place. So there's so much on the line. And then, of course, it probably also looks bad if you win 20 races out of 23 and then every time you're like, I am the best. You know, you're wilding out. I think people would probably look unkindly onto that. But still, it was really nice because sometimes it seems like F1 drivers don't seem to celebrate their wins as much. At least I feel like with
podiums.
I feel like sometimes with Lando, it seems like he's like, he doesn't come off as emotional, as excited, especially for his first race win. It seemed he was very composed.
And then also I feel like maybe it's also because we're now watching MotoGP too.
And
they're like, celebrating so hard.
But 1 through 3.
And I love it. Like every time they cross the finish line, it's like they get their flags, they go to their grandstands, and they really celebrate the win. Like, yes, maybe you get second and you want it first, or maybe you get third and you want it first, whatever it is, but they still celebrate, enjoy the moment.
To their fans.
Exactly, which I absolutely love. Like, I understand maybe F1 drivers can't go into the crowds, go into the fans. I mean,
they can't drive the car up the stairs.
But I mean,
I get that.
It's nice. It was just really nice to see that Max was so like excited about the win.
I think you nail it right on the head. Like we watch a MotoGP and they're so excited and they're celebrating and they do their victory laps and then they stop, they get off the bike, go to the stands and then they hop back on the like you said, like you can't really do that in an F1 car because it's a whole thing to get in and out of it, you know. But and I guess they're not allowed to do the donuts really anymore, so that doesn't help. But it is, it was nice just to see him excited.
Yeah, but then you also saw how like Esti Besti was really like just like
I was super happy for him too, Esti Besti.
Yeah, I think we were all as we were watching it. I think Russell's fine, but I didn't want him to take away the double podium for Alpine.
To catch up with Gasly.
Yes, there was definitely some anxiety there for me.
Just because let's be real, there's nothing really on the line for Russell anymore.
Yeah,
like not that a podium doesn't count.
Of course, like a podium is still a podium, and he should have been excited for it.
Mercedes has that fourth place clinch. They're not going to catch up in the Constructors' Championship to Red Bull. They're like almost 200 points ahead.
Yeah,
and then Aston Martin is almost 300 points behind them.
Yeah.
So, you know, every point counts and everything. And he's probably battling out with Hamilton, even though Hamilton said he doesn't care where he ends. He just wants the season to be over.
Yeah, fair.
He said he can't wait for Christmas, which is devastating.
Okay. So the other point I wanted to talk about was also Fernando's radio message that he was saying. Like, I thought it was so not atypical, like untypical of Fernando, that he was over the radio. He's like, guys, I'm going to finish the race for the mechanics because they did such a great job, but I'm in so much pain. And we got the message 2 laps before the end of the race. I don't know when he actually communicated it, but I thought that was
bad for him to get on and complain about it.
I didn't see him. We didn't watch the post-race interviews of all the racers afterwards, but I was like, I wish I would have seen him, or like
see
just to gauge maybe how he's like moving and stuff also afterwards. But I thought that message was quite telling of how uncomfortable, because I don't think he's usually one to complain like that.
At least we don't see it on the broadcast.
Exactly.
And then
true.
You did also hear Hamilton. He was like, this car's undrivable, and he's talking about bouncing, and you can literally hear him on the radio bounce. And it's so interesting because Russell doesn't do that on the radio.
No.
So I mean, we all know at this point Hamilton is just a test driver. You know, why else would you change the setup from qualifying to the race? I mean, they didn't do it here, I think, but they've done it so many times, especially the few times Hamilton actually has a good qualifying, and then you change up the setup and then he can't drive the car. I mean, it's a whole mess. I can't wait for him to be in red.
Yes.
But this was a really exciting race.
Yeah.
Very messy. I think watching live is a better experience than rewatching it.
Yes. I mean, it's still a fun race to watch, regardless.
But it's just that when you're right in it,
yes,
and you don't know what's gonna happen, it is really exciting.
The high stakes of it,
the high stakes of it, and then you obviously also like you don't know when is the red flag gonna be over and stuff like that. When you're rewatching it, you're just skipping all that, right?
No, that's fair. But let us know in the comments below if you watched the race, what your thoughts were on it. Are you celebrating Alpines 2 and 3?
I am celebrating Alpine, but I'm still rooting for Haas to take the 6th. I'm just going to put it out there just because I think overall this year Haas has been so much better from what we've seen.
So, like,
and not that Alpine doesn't deserve it. Clearly, the boys did a great job today. But my heart beats for Haas.
Because in overview of the whole entire season, I agree with you. I didn't think about that, but yes.
And I'm not saying that Ocon and Gasly didn't put in the work.
No.
It's just they have a shitbox of a car.
Yeah,
you know?
They've had a good race today, a lucky race also. I mean, it all kind of worked in their favor today, which is good. And they did excellent driving, because you can't land on a podium on a rainy day if you don't drive well.
And it also was a good sign because you didn't really see them on the broadcast. And it's a good sign if you're not on the broadcast, because that means you're not doing any nonsense.
Yes.
No nonsense is being done to you.
Yes.
You're just driving your race. And the only action we saw a little bit at the end was when Russell was sniffing around 3rd place when he was getting closer to Gasly.
Yes. But that's all our thoughts on F1 Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We have 2 weeks off.
2 weeks.
Before we head to Las Vegas, baby.
Viva
Las Vegas,
baby.
And then we're into our final
triple header
of the year. Very exciting. I mean, there's still exciting things ahead of us.
I think especially the Constructors' Championship is
100%.
really exciting.
Yes.
I think I'm going to lean out of the window and say that I think Max got this in the pocket.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a big lean.
I think
really.
so. Yeah, I think I'm just opening the window and it out and everyone is agreeing.
Yeah. I think that's totally, and I think that's okay. But I'm hoping next year will be another continuation of this wild season. This is what we want to see winning next year, yes. And a specific number, dare I say. Anyways, bye guys. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you here tomorrow for our MotoGP recap. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.